everybody. I'm the composer Andrew Lloyd Fry, and today I'm going to be talking about Decalogue Part 5 by Sufjan Stevens. So if you don't know, Sufjan is a pop musician, folk artist. He does a crazy amount of genre hopping. So he's done a rap album, he's done a new age instrumental album, he's done stripped down folk music, experimental electronic. So he really surprisingly goes all over the place, and it's pretty rare that someone can do that, and one of the things they can include in that is classical music. So he's done several classical music pieces. He wrote a piece, I think it was called The Plague for Y Music, which I like, and he did this work is all for solo piano. I think it was a ballet. I think the first thing that stands out to me is when I listen to this is how un-Sufjan-y it is. So I'm, familiar with a lot of his more pop-oriented music, and a lot of his kind of like personal cliches are not in there. So he does a lot of like simple modal harmonies with a pentatonic melody on top. And I think probably like his melodies is a big distinctive characteristic of his music, and that sense or that like vibe that he creates with his vocal melodies is just not in this music at all. So I wouldn't recognize it as him if I didn't know. So I'm going to be talking about Part 5, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this one is it sounded the most like him. Of all the works. Okay, so we start with this. So that's the first two measures, and these are the notes, just E flat and G flat. So this seems like an E flat minor chord, and that just goes up twice, and then it goes to this. So here, the left hand's the same, and we go to B flat, D flat, B flat. So G minor, G flat minor, and then we go to this, which this feels like A flat sus. So there's no third, and there's the fourth in there instead. So if we put that all together. Okay, so a couple things to talk about that. The first thing is just like the way the chords are voiced is the left hand, the lowest note and the highest note of the left hand is an octave. So it's playing G flat. And the same is true on the right hand, but it's E flat. So I think that's this voicing, especially when it's rolled like this, really stands out to me. And I think it's those octaves. And now when we go to the next chord, same thing's happening where this hand G flats and this hand B flats. And then that happens with the next chord. So those chords all, that feels like E flat minor as far as like the key signature. Now this all the parts of this, there's no key signature distinction, and everything is just accidental marked, which this piece does go kind of all over the place as far as like harmonically key signature. So it makes sense that he didn't mark a key, but this section particularly feels like E flat minor. Okay, so couple more things actually about that before I move on. So first off, this whole piece doesn't really have like strong melodic material, or you could say no melodic material, because it's just this type of like movement where you're just playing the chords, and it's always just like rolling up. The other thing is the harmony doesn't really have like a sense of like cycle where it's like, oh, you did these 8 chords and then it's repeating. It just feels like it keeps going, and it doesn't really ever feel like it returns back to that original place. Okay, so jumping ahead, he just kind of moves through different chords for a while, doing very similar things, but the chords are always changing. There's not really a clear key signature as far as like across the whole thing. And then we get to the section where I think things get a little, things change, and the big thing that changes is we move in 7/8. So we were in 3/4. It's almost like 98% 6/8 notes. So it really feels like I feel it in 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even though it's in 3/4. And then we go to 7/8. So for that part, let's see, let me count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then it goes back to 3/4. Now, the 7/8, it feels like a clear group of 4 and then a group of 3. So we start off with this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes 1, 2, 3. So that's consistent through this whole 7/8 part, where it's like a group of 4 and then a group of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So the whole thing's kind of paired that way in a 4/3. Now chord-wise, this first one, we're back to actually this E flat minor chord, so it kind of feels like the beginning, and then B flat minor, and then this last one is kind of the funky one. So we have what feels like a B dominant 7 in the left hand, and then the right hand keeps doing the thing that it was doing the whole time. So those notes don't really go together. I mean, as far as like harmonic analysis, because it's like we have an F sharp and an F, and we have an A and an A flat. So I would kind of think of this as like, I don't know, like you had this thing going, and you just put a B dominant 7th chord under that instead of trying to do an analysis that really puts those together. The only other thing I want to point out about this section is this G flat keeps coming back, and it's always on beat 5. So it almost feels like the ringing of this bell that always comes back at the same spot. So after that section of 7/8, it goes back to the 3/4. It's very similar to the beginning. So that 7/8 feels like it's short, but it feels like a departure from the feel of what the piece has been up to this point. And then it goes back to the 3/4 section, which is kind of like a return home, even though note-wise, harmonically, it's not necessarily doing the same thing. So then after that, he goes through this, the 3/4, and then there's these little blips of 7/8. So it was like this real clear section of 3/4, and then this small section of 7/8. We go back to the 3/4, but now it's like spliced in. So instead of these clear demarcations, it's like cut up, and then occasionally it's like 5/8, but a lot of it's going back between 7/8 and 3/4. And then the last thing I wanted to go over is the ending. So we did that splicing between the time signatures, and 5/8 was one of those things that was spliced in there sometimes. And the ending actually we go to 5/8. So we've got this thing. So that's the second to last line. So that's all in 5. I'll count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the last line, we go to this. Okay, so we in the line before, we were in a real clear E flat minor zone. with this A flat, which was kind of this, I don't know, that's kind of the outlier note there, because that's not in the chord, but added. And then we go to, so that A flat now becomes G sharp, and we're in some type of A chord. We have A, E, B, and G sharp. So that feels like an A major 7 with the ninth also in there. So this, we were on E flat minor with this note kind of thrown in there, and then we go to actually this. So it's kind of this pivot, and this note is the anchor. And again, it was an A flat, and then with the E flat minor chord, and then with this chord, it's a G sharp. So then that just happens 4 times. And again, we're still in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how the piece ends.